Then let's go to the last part. Maybe you saw it in the intro movie. We are executing with speed. And this is the reality. In the past, economies of scale were a competitive advantage because scale meant more profit. In this new digital era, scale is actually making us slow, right? So we basically need to think about it. It's quite concerning that behaviorally, from a culture point of view, from a way of working point of view, from an organizational point of view, we are all optimized for economies of scale. We're not optimized for agility or acting like a nimble innovator. So here you see the picture from the DBS guys again. They realize that if we want to do all this good stuff, and if we want to go with a bold claim like this, we need to change our culture. Probably most of you are familiar with Peter Drucker. This is a person who made a lot of smart quotes, even in the 70s already. I always like people that make quotes that 30 years later are still kind of relevant. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. In my mind, the way I'm reading this sentence is that all these big PowerPoints about digital transformation, they are good, they are valuable, but they are as valuable as the paper they are printed on. So it's all about execution, and how do we move into a future that we can go faster. Many banks now in the world, including DBS, but also ING, ANZ, many now realize that we need to make a fundamental change. So how can we move from economies of scale into something that's called moving to a startup state of mind? In that state of mind, there's a few very simple rules. It's all about little small teams. Because small teams typically are much faster than big teams, and they typically win. It's also very important that the team has a very clear mission, aligned with your business goals, and that you kind of create and make sure that in the team, the right people are involved. Then, which is not on this slide, it is extremely important to keep procurement and compliancy as far away from these teams as possible. Or at least to create a safe environment for these teams to operate, and there's a common understanding that they can actually experiment. The whole purpose of these teams is to fail fast. The philosophy here is you try something, and that's the most important thing. Every initiative, every team needs to be connected to a customer. The sooner, the better. Because all these little things and all these big plans are based on assumptions. And I think the most foremost important thing is to validate those assumptions. Not with your spreadsheet, but to validate them with real users. So the sooner you can make a prototype, you can go to market and a team can actually validate their assumptions. And then the market, the customer will give guidance. They will give feedback. And I think this is the essence of the Lean Startup principle. That's also what the DBS people are trying to do. And I think this is quite difficult. How do you make a 20,000 people startup operation? Well, one thing is that in a lot of these examples, a lot of people actually leave the bank because they don't like it. And I'm not promoting this, but I'm just stating that these things are happening. It's a fundamental choice. If you really want to do a change, these things are probably needed. But what they say, we really would like to go customer first, and not just as in the company vision or values, but like really in the squads, in the teams. We want to go fact-driven, based on data, based on experiments. We want to encourage these teams to take risks and to really kind of learn that way. And of course, we need to go agile. But not just agile in the IT department somewhere in a corner with 1 or 2 agile teams, but can we go agile at scale across the whole bank? I think that's, if you ask the Jeff question, what would Jeff do? Their interpretation is, this is what Jeff would do. And it's very hard. Right? How do you change the big organization? And then finally, so to drive this to a bit of a conclusion. So the conclusion is that how can we kind of adopt these lean startup principles? How can we come up with ideas? How can we kind of make quick prototypes? How do we get customer feedback? And then we build, we measure, ask for feedback, and we learn. And we go through loops. This is what we do in Backbase. We have 30 of these squads doing product development, 10 people each, and they are all connected directly with some of you here in the room to really validate what we have, is it right? And in many cases, it was not right. And in many cases, your guidance was essential to get us on the right path. So we're not preaching this, we're practicing this inside Backbase. And I can really attest, it's worthwhile. It takes at least 2 years, or maybe even 3 years, before everything is in place, before the people know how to do it. With good leadership, you can really accomplish something like this. And luckily, we have a bit of time, right? We have 7 to 8 years to really go into this journey.